Okay, if you're watching this video, then you are successfully completing step 1 for classwork for Monday, the 23rd of March. I wanted to make this video so that you guys can kind of see, I can hopefully explain to you a little bit better what I expect from you for the group project. So I am assigning the video, the group project. Then tomorrow you have a Venn diagram to work on, and I'll show you that in a minute. And don't forget your vocab is due on Wednesday. Okay, the group project. I can schedule this. I have created a bunch of links and resources for you, and I put them all under a section called Earth Scrapbook Project. Now, it looks grayed out for me today because it's going to launch tomorrow at around 10 o'clock. First, though, you have this assignment here called Uniformitarianism and Catastrophism. You need to complete the Venn diagram, which is the actual, it's a Google drawing. I've linked 3 pages from your science book to help you with this. They go over the terms uniformitarianism and catastrophism. When you open up the actual Venn diagram, you have to just create text boxes in each section. So I expect 3 bullet points here. This would be information that just applies to uniformitarianism. 3 bullet points, I'm sorry, I said 3, I meant 2. 2 in each section. 2 here, separate, just what is only applies to catastrophism. And then 2 bullet points here where they overlap. What do they have in common? Then, the project. I'm going to go first to the information section. Guidelines. You're creating essentially a scrapbook of Earth's history. I've assigned each group a specific piece of geologic time. Some of you have eons, some of you have eras, and some of you have periods. And those are all divisions of geologic time. That's information we'll put in notes as the week goes on. But you're going to create a scrapbook of memories for your designated time period. We're discussing the format of the scrapbook now. Required information, the name of your time period, and an origin for the name. Is there a reason it's called that name? Does that name mean something? The beginning and ending of that time period as close as possible. Some are going to be easier to find a beginning date, some will be more difficult. Land masses. Where are they located at the beginning of the time period? Where were they located at the end? So what direction did they move? Major events. Okay, mass extinction events, if any occurred in your time period. Biological events, which could fall under mass extinctions. Geological events. You need to label geological events as constructive or destructive or both. We'll get into more information about constructive and destructive as this week goes by, as we add to our notes. But you should be putting in, when you identify an event, a geological event, say an earthquake, how it's constructive and how it's destructive, or one or the other if it's not both. Tell me about the climate of your time period. Of course, if it changed throughout the period, identify that. Divisions of your time period. If you are doing an eon, are there any divisions of that eon? If you are doing an era, are there any divisions of that era? If you're doing a time period, is there divisions of that time? Identify examples of uniformitarianism and catastrophism in your time period. Again, this information will also be put into notes as the week goes on to help you. What we find from that time period in the rock and fossil record. So what do we find? What index fossils do we find from that time period, and where do we find them? Where in the world do we find them? Pictures for your time period. It could be life forms, land formations, whatever you find that's appropriate for your time period. And then I'll talk about this a little bit more as we get into the project. You are going to do a religion integration. You're going to have to identify which day of creation best fits your time period, what happened during that time period. It might be more than one day as well. So we'll get into that, but you will need a Bible eventually for this. Okay, so that guideline sheet is linked. You will also find your group list. Now I'm going to click on, this is, I think, is the 8S list. Yes. Each time, so like the first 3 periods are eons, then there's eras. The Paleozoic era is just one period that I want, one piece of time that I want people to work on. And then we have some periods. Just wait.
There's no one there.
I know, I'm making a video. You want to say hi?
Hi.
You gotta get up in there. See it?
Hi.
Okay, are you going outside?
Yeah.
Say bye. The person that is highlighted green, you're kind of the group leader in that you're creating the documents. You need to create the documents to share with the other members of your group. So Lydia, you're going to make the Google Doc that's going to eventually be the plan or the outline for your group, and you're going to share it with Braden. And you're also going to link it to the Google or to the plan outline assignment. So I'm going to get that from you. Josh, you are making the doc, you are sharing it with Vivian and Russell, and then it's your job to make sure that that outline, that plan that we're going to talk about next, gets linked to the plan assignment. All right. Then eventually when we go to create the slideshow for this, you're going to be using Google Slides because that's probably the easiest route to go. Those same people are going to be creating the slideshow and sharing it with their other group members and putting the link on Google Classroom. I expect the link for your outline or your plan for your project to be linked by Tuesday so I can see it and see how people work on it. And I expect the link for the slideshow to be linked by Wednesday. That does not mean that that has to be finished. Okay, if you link it and don't hit turn in, then I have a pathway to look at it. I have a pathway to see it, and it's still editable on your end. You can still do all your work on it, but it's how I'm assessing you for use of class time, because that's still part of the rubric. And I will talk about the rubric probably in a video for tomorrow, Tuesday. But I can see when you create that Google document, I will be able to see all the work that people accumulate and put on the Google document and who it's attributed to. So that's how I'm going to know you're actually doing your work. You all have to work on that document so that I can see it and I can see all of your work. I will contact group members if I don't feel like you're putting the work in, and I don't want to hear the excuse of, well, I did it on another document. Not an option. You got to do it on that document so that I can tell you're doing the work. Okay, so let's go into a little bit about what I'm talking about as far as an outline. You will find, this will open for us on Monday, assignment here. It says only group member highlighted in green, that's your group leader, needs to attach the plan to this assignment. It's called group plan / outline. The rest of the group should have shared editing access to the assignment. You have to make sure you allow them to edit. Now in the Scrapbook Resources, Scrapbook Information, I've given you a procedure sheet which outlines pretty much everything that I've just spoken about. And I've given you a sample, group outline plan sample, so you know what it could look like. You are more than welcome to make a copy of this, delete all this of the information that I put into it, and put in your own work. So I put the group members, Mrs. Mallory, Mrs. Jones, and I, and me, are part of this group. I put Mrs. Mallory's name. Then I put what part of this project she's going to work on. I just took the first 3 guidelines, the first 3 requirements, and put them in under her name. You have to have that discussion with your group members. How are you going to divide the work? I don't care. You have to come to a consensus. You can have your group discussion on a Google Doc, on this Google Doc. You can exchange phone numbers. I don't care how you do it. You just have to have that discussion. And then you need to put a due date. When does this person have to have this information gathered by? Not that it has to be on the slideshow, just when they have to have their information gathered. All information should be gathered by Friday. You'll be working on this all week long. The slideshow is not due on Friday. The information for the slideshow is due on Friday. So then Mrs. Jones is going to look up this information and have it in by Friday. I'm looking up this information. This is what everyone is going to work on. Everyone in our group is going to identify from what their assignments are, constructive and destructive processes. So when I look up, I'm assigned climate changes. Well, maybe there was an ice age. Maybe there was a global ice age at this time. I could identify that as constructive because as the glaciers come through and carve out paths, they put landforms in other places, and destructive because it breaks down. It's a major form of weathering and erosion. So when I go into my requirements, my assignments for this, I make sure I identify constructive and destructive. I also make sure I identify uniformitarianism and catastrophism. When I'm talking about climate in my time period, and I've said there was an ice age, that's an example of uniformitarianism. Uniformitarianism slowly changes the Earth's surface. Okay, and that stuff I'm going to say maybe our group doesn't have to have that all finished until the actual due date of the slideshow. Then I created a table here, my group member name, and then it's just for you, you just leave it a blank box. Okay, this is where Mrs. Mallory is going to go, and she is going to put in all of her notes and information about her assigned work. She's finding information about the name and any origin of the name, the beginning and ending as close as possible, land masses. So when she goes and you're going to use the resources I have and finds good information, she's going to probably copy and paste it there. When you put it in the slideshow, you'll break it down to smaller bullet points. But she's going to gather all her information there, so that I can go in, me as the teacher, and I can look and see that people are working on this. They're doing what was assigned to them. So that's how I set up my outline for my group. All right, if you like that outline and it makes sense to you, just go into File, make a copy, delete the information that's there for my group, put in the information for your group. If you have a different plan, a different way that you want to work this, then you can discuss with your group members. I just expect to see an outline. I expect to see a plan in place by tomorrow, Tuesday. Then, and if you have an issue with someone in your group is not available to talk tomorrow, that's fine. You've got to let me know. You've got to keep me updated. I've also then linked this procedures for group work. It was group or scrapbook procedures. Again, it just says that the highlighted person needs to create the Google Doc, share it with your group members, identify how you're going to break it up, who's going to do what, create space for collecting and sharing of information. That's what I showed you at the bottom. You can use the sample I've attached. You as the group leader have to make sure it's attached to the assignment for it by Tuesday. Create a slideshow for your group. Can just be a blank slideshow at this point. I just want to see it linked to the assignment that's going to open up on Wednesday the 25th. It can just be a basic slideshow at that time. I just want to see that you have something linked there. After the plan and slideshow are linked, I'll continue to keep track of your work and who is accessing and working on the documents. I will help you add to your geology notes through this week. So there are notes that go along with this. This project will not be due until the week after spring break, which is March 30th to April 3rd. We'll see where we're at that time, but the slideshow is not due. The only thing I'm going to be looking for by Tuesday is that you have an outline, you have a plan. Okay, and then I'm going to check on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday that you're starting to gather information and getting work into place. All right, I hope that kind of clarifies a little bit about what I'm looking for. So for today, this uniformitarianism and catastrophism Venn diagram is due, and you got to start creating information for this project. All right, thank you. Miss you all.